Is the movie The Surfer worth your eyeballs for 90-ish minutes? Well, we are going to answer that in this movie review of The Surfer. Now, we're all looking at Nick Cage here, and I'm sure we've seen the reviews, or not the reviews, but more so the hype, the images, trailers, still can't say trailer, the teasers, the photographs, etc. But what is this movie, and is it even for surfers? Well, let me tell you, yes to all the above. This movie, although it doesn't cat out of the bag feature heaps of surfing, and I'm going to say my first spoiler here is that we don't get to see Nick Cage really surf, which was a bit of a bummer. But what you quickly realize with this movie is that even though surfing is the backdrop of the movie, it's not necessarily what the movie is about. Now, just to start, we'll do like a quick little synopsis of the movie, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents on some of the themes, what the takeaway is, what I think you will get out of the movie, if it's worth it, if I recommend it, etc. So, let me just share my screen here. And I'm sure we've all seen this pretty amazing trailer. The trailer definitely like knocked this movie out of the park in terms of like building up hype. Um, I don't think that, you know, movies that have an awesome like teaser to it, it really is important. Like when I was little, my one of my dream jobs was going to be making movie teasers or making movie trailers. Trailer. I can never say it. My vocabulary is for how to say that. But what I think this movie like did really well, like before you even watched it, is it gave you like a good just overall view of a loose concept of what we're gonna get here. And essentially what happens in the movie is Nick Cage goes back to his local break in Aussie land, and he's pretty much just stoked to surf this break that he grew up surfing. He moved to America when he was little, and now he's older, successful, kind of ready to reroot himself in his old school favorite Aussie beach town. And from these like first couple shots, I thought which is really cool is that it's looks so great and it's done so well. These beach scenes that like part of you is like, is some of this green screen because the lighting's amazing. Like this shot I just had, like these shots are pretty spectacular because first, like when you shoot on the beach, a lot of times the sun is just harshly beating down. It's never the best lighting, so they had to makeshift do with a lot of probably like diffusion layers, etc. But the ultimate result of the movie is it's extremely well shot. Like you have shots like this, which look kind of like it could be a scene from Barbie, the movie Barbie. It's very high key lighting. It's very high contrast, and it just kind of wants to showcase Australia in its glory. And this was filmed in West Oz, so it's even more Australia because it's remote AF and nothing ain't going on out there besides killer animals and the ocean and rocks and gnarliness. So most of Australians live on the East Coast, and then a lot of others, do live on the West Coast, but mainly in Perth, which this spot they filmed this is kind of close to Perth in relative of where the whole West Coast is. But a lot of the West Coast is kind of like completely barren. You could drive hours, I believe, and you wouldn't find much. So it's pretty unbelievable. Um, the fact that they did shoot this all like that because it just goes to show like how it's not easy to shoot on a beach and make it look great, but somehow they made it look amazing with a lot of epic scenes, like the scenes with the surf cronies. Um, any scene on the beach looked really good. But you can see here in my picture, the lighting is very harsh, and there still is shadows and stuff, but it's never easy to shoot on the beach. Just the lighting's one thing, but also just the elements, the sand's moving everywhere. The salt water is horrible for cameras, etc. But let's get back to the review itself. So essentially, he wants to go surf in his local home break, and he wants to bring his son surfing. And the tagline's great because all he wants to do is to bring his son surfing. For me, it's like movies like this that have like a kind of a simple premise work really great because it's almost kind of like phone booth or or Saw 1, where a lot of it is, like, taking place in this one scene, and there's, like, one main motivation. Like in Phone Booth, Colin Farrell wants to get out of the phone booth alive. In this movie, all Nick Cage does is he wants to bring his son surfing, and it's almost comical, but it's played so well that it's like, you're on board. You're like, "Alright, this is really important to Nick Cage, like, he wants to bring his son surfing. We wanna make this happen for him." And that's what's really cool is that, like, for somewhat of a silly concept, it actually works really well, not just for surfers. Because as a surfer, most surfers, I think, would be stoked on this just because it's called The Surfer. It has Nick Cage holding a surfboard. It's like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool." But what I've realized is that a lot of basically everyone else reviewing this and talking about it are non-surfers, and most people are still pretty stoked because I think surfing in itself is a very admirable sport that a lot of people think looks cool. It's a sport that somehow has distinguished itself as it's unique for some reason. Like, it's a cool activity that has permeated other cultures. And now when you go to the middle of Ohio, people are wearing Quicksilver shirts, even though the ocean is thousands and thousands of miles away. So it's become like a culture in itself and a mindset that people that don't surf, have never surfed, can somehow resonate and relate with. And that's what the movie, I think, why it can bring in an audience of just non-surfers. And a lot of times why it's kind of hard to make a surf movie unless it's Bethany Hamilton's story or Blue Crush or Surf's Up. It's like a kind of more of a family movie or even like more of a broad movie, where this is going for more of like a psychological thriller, which I think is more of a niche. And then you're also adding in surfing, so it's like a double niche. Um, but anyway, so Nick Cage gets to the beach, and essentially what happens is that he wants to go surfing with his son, and the local Aussie boys, they're just not having it. They do not want him to go surfing because that's their break. And as surfers know, sometimes there are breaks in the world where people are very localized or they practice localism, which essentially is, if you don't live here, you don't surf here. That's a great line in the movie. They say multiple times, don't live here, don't surf here. And from surfer's point of view, it comes across as pretty like a day in the life. Most of us are lucky enough not to live right surf many breaks that are like extremely localized, or we're part of a localized break that we kind of understand where the people are coming from, because if the floodgates just open, anyone can go surf the break. So it kind of makes sense to a point. But then we got people like this surf gang that just take it up a whole notch. And essentially, they don't want Nick to surf there, and they make his life a living HE double hockey sticks. And I really quick want to point out just the acting from Julian McMahon in this movie, McMahon in this movie. To me, he actually stole the show. To me, when he was on screen, even when it was him and Nick Cage, I preferred or actually thought that he was bringing it even more than Nick Cage. Now, he is Australian, so when he's doing the accent, it's kind of his accent actually isn't this thick of an Aussie accent. It's kind of a weirder accent. It's almost been Americanized or something. But he slaps on the, like, the rural Aussie accent, and it's sounds amazing, and he's able to to bring like a super intimidating screen presence as Scally, as the leader of the localized surf gang. So he's like kind of their leader guru. And we find out later that he actually has like kind of an internet presence, and he has like a following of sorts, like a true internet guru these days, kind of like me. So, what we kind of learned though is that like he's pretty much running the whole show. And even though the other guys are like, you can't surf here, he's like, you really can't surf here. And if you try to surf here, there's going to be problems. And that's pretty much the setup. And then that's A to B to C, and that's the movie. And a lot of the movie is essentially him trying to figure out how to surf this break and just getting ultra bullied. And it actually goes to such a length of bullying that even Australians would be like, "All right, that's a little much," because they're really they're really giving it to poor Nick Cage. Let's check out the chat. We have a local celeb, Mark. What's happening? My keyboard. There we go. We got Mark. Mark says, "Hey mate, he's gonna listen while making dinner." Well, sweet as mate, sweet as. Well, I'm sure. Have you watched the Surfer yet, Mark? Because they don't make your kind look very good, unfortunately. But what's funny though is so in some of the interviews, supposedly, even though this is based in Australia, it might have some the backstory of this is potentially based on the Palos Verdes surf break in the Los Angeles area, where I think they're called the Lunda Boys. What are they? Yeah, the Lunada Bad Boys. This is like literally a gang that kind of is similar to the movie, where a lot of these people live in the area. It's a secluded break that's kind of hard to get to. And then, oh, so Mark's saying that us Aussies don't bully people. They kindly help people with the right way to act in a lineup. No, he hasn't seen it. Well, Mark, you'll be listening and I'll go through it. And I'm definitely poking fun as in my nearly year in Australia, never had any problems. And Aussies are definitely some of the like friendliest people. This is definitely somewhat satire, but also there are surf spots in the world like this. It's not just in Australia. But I think what was cool about this is it kind of takes an approach similar to maybe Hostel Part 2, like in Eastern Europe, where they take like an area and kind of ramp up the satirical like topography of the people or the culture and use it as like a backdrop just to add like some extra oomph to the plot, because the director is Irish and the writer I think is British. I'm not the writer. Neither of them are Australia, but they were talking about how there's like this lineage of people making Australian films like this that are like very Australian, like what's the Picnic Rock movie? Um yeah, Picnic at Hanging Rock, like very Australian movies that that are almost like you have to live in Australia to even understand what's going on, to even understand the characters. So they were kind of going for that like kind of feel of an Aussie movie that is somewhat Hollywoodized. Even though this movie, it almost kind of feels like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood mixed with Fight Club and American Psycho. Mark says Sunshine Coast is pretty chill, so it's not like this. And never really seen too much aggression up there. Gold Coast gets pretty heated. I saw a fist fight at Burley once. Wow, interesting. Because I mean, to me, Burley was like always definitely like the hippie chill spot, but I could definitely, I mean, it's still a Point Break, and any Point Break is going to be a little iffy. And then, Snapper Rocks is. Oh, Mark says the best Australian movie is The Castle. It's about a family home that they are trying to resume to build an airport. Okay. Did I see that? What are some of my favorite ones? Oh, look, Nick Cage is already. Oh, look at that, number one. Sweet. So Nick Cage is already rising to the top in this new one. These are all kind of old ones or new ones though. There's like a lot of good old ones that are like made by Australian filmmakers. This is not the list. Um, Here we go. Good Australian films. So Chopper, like Chopper. Look, here's the castle mark. So the castle, but yeah, Chopper is another great one where um it's in a similar realm where like it's this it's just the geography is a character in itself essentially, and just the Australian filmmaking. It's almost kind of like what's the other one? The new one that's kind of the serial killer guy. It's a show too. I can't remember. But yeah, Chopper's awesome. That's with Eric Bana, and Eric Bana is Australian, and Chopper was pretty much what put Eric Bana on the map. So that's pretty cool. Um, Mark says so he said Chopper was good too. But yeah, Mark, they're showing your movie. I think I've seen The Castle because when I studied abroad, I studied film in Australia as well, and we'd watch a bunch of Australian movies, and I think we watched The Castle. I don't think we did watch Chopper, but we watched The Castle. I think we watched this Adventures of Priscilla. That one's cool. That one's cool. Um, Two Hands. I think we watched. Yeah, Two Hands. Two Hands was cool too. Oh, The Proposition. Yeah, this was a great one too. Oh yeah. So there's actually is a lot of good ones, and like a lot of like people you wouldn't even think, like Guy Pearce, Eric Bana, Heath Ledger. Or is Heath Ledger Australian? Yeah, he's Australian. So a lot of Australians will trick you into thinking that they're not Aussie, but they are. So like Heath Ledger, who would have thought? So there's actually a lot of film history in Australia, and a lot of great filmmakers and actors come from Australia. So there's this it has a rich history. So and Hugo Weaving, I believe, is Australian. Um, Russell Crowe is. Yeah, here's Picnic at Hanging Rock. This was almost like kind of the essential. Well, let me click it. Merle's Wedding, I remember. Yeah, so Wolf's Creek. That's the one. Wolf's Creek, Mark. So Wolf's Creek is kind of like Chopper on steroids, and they actually made a couple of them, and then they made a TV show out of it. So, Romper Stomper, that was another one. Romper Stomper. So there's actually a lot of really good Aussie movies, and a lot of them have like a little bit of the Mad Maxness in it, just due to the geography of Australia. It's the sun's bright. It's they like to use the gold, like beige, sandy color. But we'll get back to the movie, but that's what one thing the movie did really great is it like the film stock or just the color grading they did was like chef's kiss. This is what like I think a lot of Australian movies kind of look like. Um Mark says he thinks Russell Crowe might have been born in New Zealand. Okay. But they do claim all Kiwis. Oh, really? That's interesting. Let's see. He is from oh yeah, he's from born in New Zealand. That's cool. That's fun. I almost thought he'd be like from Ireland as he goes fights people. The South Park joke. I think Hugo Weaving's Australian, right? Hugo Weaving. Oh yeah, he's British. Okay, he's British. Oh, he's British Australian. So maybe he's so old that he was one of the first guys sent to Australia. So oh, he's born in Nigeria, but he moved to Australia when he was young. Okay, cool. Oh, he was in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert movie. That's sick. That movie is really awesome. Then we're getting some Australian film history. That's what we're doing now. This movie was amazing. This is pretty much Mad Max before Mad Max. Um, yeah, it shows. I mean, Guy Pearce is in this. Hugo Weaving. This movie is really awesome. It's a lot of great shots. Pretty much, it was Mad Max prequel. Yeah, this movie is really cool. I mean, it's not as much like carnage, but like the scenery, and they're just hanging out in like a lot of the outback. Mark says the South Park Russell Crowe was classic. Yeah, that was super funny when he's fighting around the world. Hugo Weaving has been in a lot. I love Hugo Weaving movies. Yeah, Hugo Weaving, he's one of my faves, top faves. But back to the movie. So, um, essentially, most of the movie is like him getting bullied by the people. And again, this is a spoiler alert. There's lots of spoilers in my review here. And he just starts to go down the drain of sanity as more and more things are taken from him, like his shoes, his dignity, his car, his etc. And they kind of start even gassing him up a little bit via gaslighting. They steal his board, they put it on the top of this building, that sanctuary board. So that was his board here. So here in the scene, he has the board, and then later they take it from him and put it up here. You probably saw this in one of the scenes, and they say that board's been there for 7 years, and it gets to a point where they bully him so much, take so much from him, that he starts to lose it, and the audience also starts to think like, okay, is this really happening? Is this in his mind? Like what's really going on here? Because it starts to get like a little like trippy in a very very weird way where you don't know what's real, what's fake, and you're trying to figure out like, is Nick Cage crazy, or is the audience supposed to be believing this? They just gaslighting him up into oblivion. Like what's going on here? And by the by the middle act, by the point where it's starting to get to the towards the eat the rat moment that you saw in the trailers, um pretty much everyone's just lying to him, screwing him over. They take his phone, they take his watch, they take all his possessions. He ends up pretty much hanging out in the parking lot the whole time, trying to go surf. None of the guys are having it. There's also a parallel character, this homeless guy in a car that is, you think it's Nick Cage or Nick Cage in the near future, becoming homeless, living in the car right next to him. Let me see if I can find it in the not that guy. That guy's funny though. So it might be hard to find him, but pretty much Nick Cage lives, this is the beach. Right next to the beach is the parking lot. And he's essentially in the parking lot the whole time, or the beach, and the gang lives on this beach. And in the parking lot is the homeless guy who looks kind of like Nick Cage, is wearing a similar outfit. And you start to think, okay, is the homeless guy Nick Cage in the future? Is Nick Cage hallucinating and becoming the homeless guy like in real time? Like what's going on here? Because you really start to question if this is happening. And that's why I say it's kind of like Fight Club or American Psycho, because especially American Psycho, because you start to think, is Patrick Bateman, is he doing this stuff, or is this all in his head? I mean, that comes later on down the line of that movie, but this is painting that picture in the same time, just a little earlier on. But then once he really starts to lose it, and there's a couple great scenes where he goes to the beach, he gets in fights with these guys. These guys are like just hanging out on the beach doing crazy stuff. Um, Pretty much like the Luanda boys or whatever from Palos Verdes. I think they're called the Bay Boys in the movie, or they have a name, and they even like brand each other with a little brand after they're included into the surf gang. So it's kind of like a step up just from like the boys hanging out and surfing. Um, there's like a hint of mysticism because we're on the beach. The guru is, Julian is doing like crazy witchcraft stuff. They're in circles doing chants. So you start to think, okay, is this some kind of like god they're all praying to, and like there's some kind of weird thing going on. Like it really does a good job of kind of keep keeping you kind of lost for a little bit. You start to not really know what's going on. Um, but then there's actually a great scene towards the so like this part. This is when Nick Cage is pretty much lost it. His car gets vandalized, and in this at this part of the movie, you think he's the homeless guy, and the Julian, the main bad guy, the leader of the surf gang, is like, "All right, dude, you gotta go. Like this is like you gotta get out of here. Like here's a peace offering. Here's a burger. This is a great scene where they're eating a hamburger together, and he's explaining to him that you're never gonna surf here, man. Like I don't know what you're doing, why you're sitting in this parking lot for days on end, but you need to get the f out." And Nick Cage is like, "I'm not leaving." And pretty much he's Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street. He's not leaving. So we get a great scene of this girl photographer in the movie who is taking pictures of Nick Cage. And right before Nick Cage, you're pretty much like, all right, he's making this up. It's in his head. This isn't real. He's going to like wake up and be the homeless guy or something's going to happen. She actually shows him a picture of him and his car that he brought in originally. And it's a tangible image that you look at it. You're like, oh, wait, that's Nick Cage. That's the car he drove in on. He's looking proper. Like this actually is happening to him. And when you realize like all this bullying actually is happening to him, you're like, holy crap, this is insanity. Because this guy gets taken through the ringer. I mean, I'm sure even the gnarliest of hazing, it's, they do it. Like I said, they do everything. They take his phone, watch all of his clothes essentially. They put POP in the drinking fountain. So he can't even get water. He's slowly dying almost. So you think maybe like is he gonna just die in the parking lot? And again, and why he's there too is to surf the break, but also there's a house right on top of the hill that he wants to buy. And that's the house that he grew up in, and he lives on the beach. So he doesn't want to leave because he needs that he needs that past life back. And he's so caught up in getting that nostalgia back that he's not gonna give up. Like death is better than not getting this new life because like a lot of movie characters, his world has fallen apart. In his world, he gets divorced, the new wife's having a new kid. Um, he can barely get his son, who's in the beginning of the movie, to go surfing. Like he can't do nothing right. So he needs this. He needs this house and he needs to surf. And it seems a little far fetched, but when you're watching it, you're never really questioning like, oh, why can't he just leave? Well, it gets to a point where the car dies and there's all this resistance that's keeping him there. And then he gets so dead set on buying that house and surfing that wave, and there's nothing else to do. So after you realize, like, okay, he's not making this up, like this is actually happening, he kind of has a little this is where Nick Cage kind of does the Nick Cage like freak out thing, and he starts kind of losing it. This is the scene where he finds a rat, he tries to eat the rat, but it doesn't taste good or something, so he just keeps it for later. And then when he ultimately freaks out, can't take it no more, he runs down the beach, he smacks one of the surfers in the head, shoves the rat in his mouth, says, "Eat the rat," is about to drown the guy, drown one of the fellow bully surfers. And Julian McMahon stops him and says, "All right, dude, stop, stop." He's like, "You've done it. Like, you've suffered enough. Now we accept you." And then they literally like pick him up and bring him to their surf shed. And then he pretty much gets initiated into the surf gang. And what Julian explains to him is that like you had to suffer all this suffering so you can surf. And kind of one of the taglines is suffer so you can surf. So he's kind of like paraphrasing like the 40-year travel, or just you really have to experience the dark night of the soul to get on the other side and then experience the enlightenment, or in Nick's case, now he gets to surf because he suffered so freaking much. So these are some great scenes when he gets initiated and goes into the little woo woo camp, and they do DORGS, RUGS. They do, a little ceremony. There's the rat scene. So he's pretty much getting initiated at the very end here. And that's a great scene where he hits the guy and makes him eat the rat right here. But when they bring him into the initiation club, he's pretty stoked because he's like, all right, sweet, I get to be in the club. Like I'm gonna get to surf. And they actually make him go burn the homeless guy's car as his final act before surfing, to prove that, almost kind of like he's burning some kind of future him, and or just someone who did something similar to these guys. Now, the homeless guy, what they kind of don't explain until towards the end, is that the surfer group kind of screwed him over. The homeless guy's son was a good surfer. He passed away in some kind of accident that involved the group. And then the homeless guy's dog actually also is missing. And Nick Cage gets to the bottom of it and realizes that the bad boys, or whatever their name is, the Bay Boys, I think, um, they were responsible for this. Now, even the son might have been somewhat of an accident, but then the dog, I think they just killed the dog. So when Nick lights the car on fire at the end here, it's pretty intense because you're like, dang, dude, you're like screwing over the poor homeless guy who didn't seem to do nothing wrong. And so Nick's now like part of the gnarly surf club, the bad boys. Um, so, and this is a great scene. This is kind of during the drug-addled, crazy scene where they're all doing those things and they're in a circle and they're just losing it. But the ultimate climax is that after he burns the homeless guy's car, they go back to the beach and like he's finally gonna go surf. Um, but then out of nowhere, the homeless guy runs down to the beach, has refound his gun. There was a gun present earlier on, and like kind of gets all the surf gang together, and he's gonna like execute him on the beach. So they're all hanging out on the beach right here. Um, and it's pretty scary because like the sun's there, the sun came back. They're all on the beach, they're all sitting down with their hands up, and the homeless guy is like ready to kill him. But then luckily he does let everyone go, including Nick Cage, but he doesn't let Julian McMahon go. Um, Scally is his name. So he doesn't let, the leader of the gang go in the red robe here, and actually does end him at the end. And then we see Nick Cage paddling out, and it's actually this shot at the very end of the trailer. He's paddling out, the waves coming over, and then it fades to black. And when it first happened, I was like, dang, like we didn't see Nick Cage surf. And like I wish there was like a teeny bit more closure, because at first you're like, hold on one sec, was that like all fake? Did that happen? Did it not happen? Like you're right away, you're a little um the ending isn't as solidified and closed. It's pretty open-ended. But then once the movie simmers for a while and you watch other people's reviews and you even listen to the director and stuff talk about this, you realize the ending is actually perfect, because the very last shot is the wave breaking that's the last shot of the whole movie right here. The wave breaking over Nick Cage's head, and he's finally gonna catch the wave. The whole build up to the very that this very his whole motivation gets to the very end, and he finally gets to surf the wave. And what's funny is they don't even really show this part, but it was never about him surfing the wave. It was about him recapturing that past life that he would not let go of and he wanted more than anything. So it's kind of like a story about holding on so tight to something and not knowing when to let go, even when it's obvious that it's not for you and it's super bad for you. Don't live here, don't surf here. But he just would not give up. And at the very end, when he succeeds, it's almost like, okay, so maybe you are supposed to like really go for it. But again, what he had to lose through the whole thing, like, is it really worth it? So it's a really good tale of just kind of what people have to go through to reclaim that past that doesn't really exist anymore. We all do that. We all go back to the same surf break that we surfed that spot and it was amazing 5 years ago, or we want to go watch that amazing movie again, or we want to go on that awesome vacation, but it's never as good as the first time. And what the surfer did is like really explore that in a very unique way using surfing and using a phone booth type scene where there's only one location and like three scenes: the parking lot, the beach, and like the little surf shed. And with all that, they were able to explore so much about just people and obsession and not being able to let go, and also just really going for like what you want no matter what. Because most of us would have just got up and walked out of there at some point. But all he wants to do is bring his son surfing. So I like how they really like brought it down to being just about that. So now let's talk a little bit about like the overall more thematics about it, because what I think is pretty cool is that like Scallion himself, this this character in the movie, he almost kind of represents like law, surf law, and like the boss, like the final boss, like the villain, the bad guy. But what's funny is he's not really too much of a bad guy. And it's funny because they kind of paint this picture of the guys hanging out, and this is why I say it's like Fight Club. They talk about like there's no more spaces for them. Like this is their like kind of safe space, is this surf gang cult house on the beach. They can be themselves, they can confide in themselves, they don't have to worry about the outside world, and then they don't have to be shamed for being men. And there is some like there's a debate if it's like toxic masculinity or if it's just looking at it or what's kind of going on. But what's interesting is that it's an extreme case for sure, but I think it does make a good point on like there isn't many spaces left like this, you know. They ramp it up to a crazy point, but when they ultimately like allow Nick Cage to come in after all the suffering, it's kind of like when I think he says in the movie, like monks used to have to go, Tibetan monks, and like sit in front of the entrance for 10 days, no food, no water, and then they were finally let in. It's like a similar amount of the suffering dark night of the soul to enter the heavenly gates or whatever you will. So I don't think it was like I viewed it as they were like trying to have some kind of thing, but they just took the Aussie kind of like culture and ramped it up to I forget what the phrase is, but they kind of used like in Hostel 2, they kind of like typecasted what the most extreme horror element of like the Eastern European like thing is. In this, they kind of upped the Aussie thing, kind of like in the movie um we were talking about earlier, not Chopper, but the other one, Wolf Creek, where it's kind of comical how like intense it is, but it's with the backdrop of killer snakes, killer animals. The sun is like hot as Hades, but it's also like beautiful. So it's very hazy. It's um like eternal in a sense. Like it's like kind of like a dream state the whole movie. And the location is so dreamy, it would border on being like a paradise, you know. So it's yeah, so the characters in themselves kind of represent like bigger aspects of any culture, but in the surf culture, it's ramped up a lot. But as a surfer, you can kind of chuckle at like what they're kind of going for. But if you guys are appreciating the stream, please smash like, hit the subscribe, all the YouTube housekeeping stuff, and I will continue. And let me know if you guys have seen the movie yet, if you're planning on seeing it, if you don't care at all. I was like super amped on this movie for the whole run up to when it released, and I saw it in theaters with my buddy. And shout out Will. We saw it like the 10 p.m. showing, and it don't theater only had like 3 other people in it, which kind of sucked. But it was a late showing, and this is only opening in like limited releases. It is doing well. It has a 6.5 on IMDb. It is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Box office doesn't seem that great, but I think the budget wasn't too crazy. So it's more of like a art house film. I was kind of getting Mandy vibes as well with or the color of sound vibes. With a lot of the visuals, the cinematography was slamming. Like it was freaking epic. Let's see if we can find like the scene. Like we've probably all seen the scene. I think it is this oh, here we go. This is a great scene. So well, here's an amazing scene. They do this a lot too. Like when you're in a hot ass place like Australia, you have this like haze of heat that just rises up. And this is near Perth. This was filmed in Yipling, Mark. Oh, nice. That's crazy. It didn't come out till then there, huh? So it must be like limiting releasing and then release. They're gonna see how it does and release it other places and then figure out how big or small they want to go with it. But this scene is actually phenomenal, and I have a cool little backstory here. This scene was the first time Nick Cage met Julian McMahon on his last leg. No food, no water, is basically dying. And Julian is like, "Hey, here's some beer, water. Here's a hamburger. Let's get you to health here. Like you're about to die." And again, I gotta like iterate that this guy's performance in this is they should have not killed him off and done another movie with him in the same character. It was a extremely flushed out, like amazing character to only be in this one movie. Something about his screen presence. This is the same guy from Nip Tuck, and he was Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four. So he's an older guy, and he's been in some stuff, but he's kind of been a little less on the radar lately. So I'm stoked to see him in this. But he steals every scene, and he's menacing. Like they must have rehearsed that a ton of times. You guys must be friends because it's like watching, two adversaries battle it out in real time. And but it's done like really awesome, and it's like he's so freaking amazing. His teeth are so white. His accent is so perfectly spot on. Escaped in Australia is its own character, so they always want to have it in the shot. There's a lot of shots like this, just showing the sun, showing animals. But some other guy was saying that the movie's funny because it's a wide open beach, but it feels very claustrophobic. So for a movie to be able to like be outdoors but feel like you're in a phone booth or in Saw 1 in the little bathroom, it's pretty impressive. Um, and what was cool is so they actually hired a Australian DP to have essentially a B cam, but the B cam just focused on like B-roll shots, like of animals. There's like kookaburras in here. There's lizards. There's snakes. There's all these like clips of just an animal chilling. But then this guy would also film just like extreme close-ups of shoot these crazy extreme close-ups that don't make sense on their own, but in a scene, beautiful shots like this where it's he's silhouetted, but they probably have a reflector board or like a super. They probably just use tons of reflector boards, and like you can't really get these kind of shots in a studio. Um, you can try, but why these look so brilliant is because it was shot outside, and it's so surreal that it kind of looks like the Barbie movie, but it's not in a giant green screen. This is actually at the beach. Um, and so the director was pretty cool because he actually directed another movie that's it's not as surfy. It's look here, this is pretty decent. I mean, 85, so it's his best, it's probably his best movie so far. Supposedly this Nocebo movie's pretty good, but 85%, I mean, I'll take that all day. So I'm stoked on that for him. But he actually made this movie with Jesse Eisenberg. This is the one other movie I've seen of his called um Vivarium. And this movie was cool. To me, it kind of lost its way by the end. It was like, but the setup is really cool. It's kind of like if Pleasantville met like a utopian crazy future and everyone lives in like these suburbs and the houses are all the same. And I'm pretty sure the kids get made in like a garden or the kid's already there or something that they're your child. And it's very kind of like fake. Like, yeah, I think the kid you get, I'm pretty sure is like grown in the garden or in your house or something. And you raise the kid, and all the houses are the exact same on the same blocks. Like, this is a great shot. So it was kind of like this. It was like a surreal, trippy, psychological movie that the first half you're like, what's going on here? Like what you're kind of lost, and by the time you're about to give up because you're like, is this real? Is this fake? Like he gives you something, so he doesn't leave you totally hanging. So after seeing this movie, I was like, all right, so this guy definitely has something going on. But for some reason, this movie it didn't stick the landing super great for me. But it did have great performances from Jesse Eisenberg and the girl who what's her name? I think it's the girl from You, or maybe not, but it's worth a watch for sure. Just the visuals alone are really amazing. And you'll kind of see if you like the surfer, you'll probably like this. But what I thought was cool was that it's to me it seems like it's kind of obvious that Nick Cage was stoked to do this, and just watching like the press tour and etc. that like he's behind this director, and I think he's on a good roll right now with movies like um Mandy and the his Nick Cage unhingedness and that Long Legs movie. He's kind of in this nice little era where he's doing not really like super Hollywood stuff, and it's a cool little renaissance of a guy who's won an Oscar, and I think most people would agree that he's a really great, cool actor that's very likable and has done tons of stuff. I mean, Adaptation was amazing, Leaving Las Vegas, and then he can do stuff like Con Air or Matchstick Men. It's or even like the Long Legs movie plays like the lady serial killer person. So he can really, and then I think he's actually playing John Madden in a Madden movie coming up. So Nick Cage is playing John Madden. So that's pretty awesome. But this definitely got me stoked to try to watch Nip Tuck again because again, I'm a big fan of this Julian guy, and he like stole the show, completely stole the show, and I was like, "You're the man," and we need this guy and more stuff ASAP because it's unbelievable. Like, go watch some interviews about the movie with him. and you're just like, wow, this is like a they need to resurrect this guy and put him in just everything. Because I was even looking at like some Fantastic Four stuff where he was in the Fantastic Four movie that had Jessica Alba and some other people that I think is actually aging like fine wine, but at the time it did okay. But people are saying Robert Downey Jr. is now Doctor Doom, but this guy played Doctor Doom first, and most people are like, all right, well, actually, he was a great Doctor Doom, and they should have just brought him back. So it goes to show most people aren't sleeping on him. And here's a picture with the director with Nick Cage. So it was cool as he was explaining. It's like kind of they showed up to this stage, and the stage was the bathroom area, the surf hut, the beach, the ocean, and the parking lot, and it was all contained. And they're in such a remote area of Australia anyway that like I'm sure they got permits and stuff, but probably wasn't too difficult to just show up, knock this out, and then skedaddle. And I think they shot it in, I think pretty much a month, maybe even a little less than a month. So that's pretty cool that they, are bringing industry to Australia, and this guy's trying his best to kind of keep that legacy of pretty cool Australian filmmaking, um, in Australia and keeping it real. And it was cool to see like all the O'Neill logos, all the Rip Curl logos, seeing the surfboards. Fairly authentic for a movie that even though it's somewhat disguised as a surf movie, there are a couple of cool surf scenes, but like, there's a barrel here and a like decent wave here, but it's not as much of a surf movie as like Blue Crush or like that. There's not full on surf scenes or people are it's more like kind of the backdrop just to serve as Nick Cage's motivation to be there. But I think it actually works perfectly because we get this nice little subculture that the normies don't really get to see every day. I'm like, surf localism, that seems kind of silly, but most surfers are like, well, this actually doesn't seem that far fetched because there's breaks by me that are good at this level and by everyone. Some of us watching might even do this, but I'm all about, trying to get us stoked again because I actually had an epiphany today and I realized um surfers we suffer from RSB, resting bish face, but it's resting surf face. And I'm seeing a lot of people we're out there surfing and we're just sitting there like this, no smiling, no stoke, just business. It's just business time. And I'm not gonna lie, it gets me a little bummed. It's me a little bummed because first off, surfing, it's not this righteous, holy act that we're saving the world. It's actually a very selfish addiction that only benefits the individual. So, to think that we're out there holier than now and like it's kind of messed up because we're just fulfilling an addiction. That's good. It's a good personal individual addiction, but it's not like we're saving the planet or anything. And then to put on top of that, a lot of the boards and equipment we use aren't good for the world. So it's yeah, it's like counterintuitive to what surfing's supposed to represent. And that's what's funny about the movie is it shows you that like right in your face, very, very in your face. And Nick Cage is trying to come to grips with like this weird localism that he kind of doesn't get. And it's unfortunate that this makes too much sense to a lot of surfers. Like this makes perfect sense. So, hopefully as I think surf parks are gonna keep changing that just due to they're creating more quantity of waves. So essentially what it is a lack of abundance because you're out there, there's only a certain amount of waves. You want to make sure you get your waves. If someone else might mess up getting your wave. So, but if there's unlimited waves, we're all getting waves, you know, then it's kind of sweet. Like usually people snowboarding or skiing are smiling and laughing the whole time. Usually skateboarders are smiling, laughing the whole time. you might be smiling and laughing with your friends out there, but like if you're just with a sea of strangers, it doesn't seem there's not as much stoke as you would think, like Spicoli stoke, like you would think it'd be a bunch of Spicolis, but it's kind of not. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but you just got to try to be the change, I guess, and try to strike up a combo or just be like, hey, like sick wave, someone has a good wave, tell them good wave. Most people aren't gonna do that. So if you want to try to be the person to do that, like go for it, because why not? I mean, most people are going to be pretty resistant. But then if you say, "How's a sick wave?" or "It's pretty fun out here," most people are actually gonna open up, and be like, "Yeah, I agree, it's pretty fun," and then the communication will start. But it's funny how a lot of us are just super closed off. We don't want to do that. Um, yeah, so I don't really know the solution, but the movie does a good job of showing that to the very extreme. So maybe you can watch it and be like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be such a Jack A in the lineup or something." So Mark Ellerman says it gets it gets him bummed too. Sometimes he wonders if people are even having fun in the surf. They look so unhappy. I gotta agree, man. I gotta agree. It's kind of weird now. Yeah, like even growing up surfing, it seemed a lot. People were more stoked. I mean, I'll notice like kids like in high school and stuff will be stoked, and like younger people will usually be like pretty stoked. But yeah, once it's almost like the stereotypical grumpy old guy, but they almost seem stoked too. It's almost like that middle ground. It's like the mid-20s through the mid-40s, just has resting surf face, and we're just like someone comes in shredding, like does sick moves, and you're just like, no, it's like so weird. It's like even me, I'm getting all full of myself. I'm like shredding on the two fish. I'm like, I'm absolutely shredding right now, and I'm like, you people are giving me nothing. Like I'm getting nothing here. Like look on the beach, everyone's just staring. Like give me something. Give me like a Lenny and Simpsons. Like yeah, like give me something. Like I get nothing. I'm getting nothing here. And then little Timmy's standing up on the wave storm, and everyone's cheering on the beach. Like what the crap, dude? I'm doing like full on sick roundhouses, the re-entries. Little Timmy just stood up. He gets a standing ovation. I don't get jack. So I'm sick of that. I'm not sick. I'm sick of getting validated when I'm shredding. That's for sure. So Mark says he's on the other side of 40 now, so he's not grumpy anymore. Nice, mate. Yeah, nice. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm not. I really try to like. I'm just super grateful to be able to surf and like feel like I'm surfing the best I have my whole life. I mean, I don't want to charge as big of a waves or like risk my life as much, but like when I'm surfing a sick wave, like today the waves were actually like sick and going off, and the two fish was flying. I was having an amazing time, and I got home and I was like, I had like a world class amazing wave. That's my local break. Like that's really amazing. That's and I don't want to take that for granted. Um, and a lot of people do. And a lot of people they just yeah, yeah, I don't know what's the ultimate it might be similar to girls who just have resting via face, like, maybe it's a similar, unconscious thing, like, they're not even really thinking about it, um, but yeah, I definitely noticed, like, the stoke, we gotta kinda try to bring the stoke back because, yeah, it's not it right now. Now you go to a surf park and the stoke's there. So my theory of the lack of getting your fix due to not being enough waves, I think that's all that's going on is you want to make sure you get your waves, and the other people there are essentially your competition because they also want the waves. But at a surf park, everyone's guaranteed to get their waves, so everyone is cheering people on and is stoked for others because everyone gets a wave. So that's I don't know the solution to that in the surf lineup. But typically there is like a someone of the pecking order where you take the wave, someone else kind of moves in. So it usually works itself out. There's definitely wave hogs, and like I definitely catch a lot of waves just because I'm a scrappier surfer. And someone might look and be like, "Hey, you're catching like lots of waves. Like let someone else catch waves." but that's just due to experience. And once know where to go and stuff, a less experienced server won't catch as many waves just due to not being skilled enough to catch waves because of shifting peaks, etc. So Mark says he definitely gives a U when someone goes past on a belter of a wave. Good on ya. Good on ya. Put my gang back up. And I want to be I want to be the guy in the red robe when I grow up. Is all I know. He's like my new favorite. He's my man crush, Julian. And I love how they put the guys in like changing ponchos, and this is like his outfit in the whole movie. It's like pretty cool. It's like they just wear the ponchos. Um, Mark says everyone's competing for that finite resource, so it's too competitive. Hopefully, wave pools will help. Yeah, for sure. And I've seen it firsthand. Like I've been lucky enough to surf Kelly's pool, and I've surfed Waco, and I've surfed. I guess those are the two main ones, and like standing waves. Standing waves actually show you the most about how surfing can be very like stoked and cheerleady because it's the perfect stadium. Like you're on the standing wave, and there's people on each side or on one side, and it's like a built-in little mini audience that like that's so far to me the most beneficial for like self for confidence for getting people stoked because there's such a fast turnover too. Like you fall off the standing wave, you get in the line moves fast. Um, so if we can take like the standing wave stoke that's like super prevalent and easy that you can't you can't the grins on people's faces are painted on the standing waves. Um, Mark says, "Have I ridden a flow rider? They look pretty fun." I have ridden a flow rider. They are pretty hard to ride, and they're actually really different. You ride essentially like a wakeboard, and I'm pretty sure you're strapped in, and it's like this shallow, so it's really shallow, and it's kind of like a standing wave where the water is coming at you, so it ends up being like a good amount different. And especially because you're on more of a wakeboard, it feels a lot different. Standing waves feel more similar to surfing, but they also feel very different. And there's a big learning curve. There's a big learning curve. I had a friend who was like a semi-pro um flow surfer, and he could like do like flips and stuff, and he was really good. So yeah, it ends up being more of like a wakeboarding sport because you're strapped in. I don't know if you're always strapped in, but like the guys do it professionally, they're strapped in, and you like go up the lip and do flips and come in. It looks like gymnastics or snowboarding. Because Mark says it looks brutal when you stack it. You have to show because it's shallower and you get sucked into the flow machine. And what's making the flow rider is like a giant piece of plastic. So you can kind of like go up into the plastic and get slammed down on the shallow other piece of plastic. What is nice though is the flow rider bottom is plastic. Surf parks, a lot of the bottom's concrete. So what is this? I need extra security to keep my account safe. What are I'm getting a weird thingy. I might just not touch this. Safari's saying I need a thingy. I need extra security, keep my account safe in the middle of a freaking live stream. What are you talking about? I'm not doing that. I don't even know what just happened. Can I still stream? Okay. I got a weird thing right now from YouTube. Wants me to verify it to me. Gee, YouTube, what are you doing right now? Oh boy. Let me just check something real quick. YouTube's effing with me. Let me make sure I'm live here. There's me. There's me again. Oh, look, there's me talking to me. There's me. All right, so I'll just keep talking because I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. Or I can't really show you, I guess. I guess I could. So here's the screen's telling me. It's telling me I can't really see that. It's telling me right here. To continue, we gotta confirm it's really you. The extra layer of security helps keep your account safe. AKA F's up my freaking stream. Don't bother me while I'm working, YouTube. Don't freaking bother me while I'm working. But anyway, so we'll kind of wrap it up here. We hit the hour mark. We went through a bunch of the movie. Maybe I'll just wrap up more with the movie. I think the general theme is Mark says his mate surfed urban surf in Melbourne. He said it was really fun and he got plenty of waves. Yeah, Mark, I can't. I gotta talk to you on my phone because YouTube's pissing me off. But yeah, urban surf's sick, and I've talked to like the founder and the creator of that a bunch, and worked with some of those guys, and like that was one of the first ones that did it really sick, and like and then they made Urban Surf Sydney, so that was like a great case study, and that was probably one of the most first like successful ones that didn't kind of end up. It's perfect location right at Melbourne Airport. Like people would even go there on their layovers. That seems to be becoming a theme because Endless Surf in Germany is right by the Munich airport. The Sydney one's in Olympic Valley, which I'm pretty sure is by the airport. Um, yeah, Mark says you have to come check the movie when it comes out. Yeah, for sure. If you're an Australian, you'll like it a lot because it's just fun. The scenery is really cool. The beach is Yapilling Beach or something. Pillin or something. Let's see. It's like a little bit south of Perth. Um, where was the Surfer films? Oh, Yowling Up, Western Oz. On the map when I was looking, it was like Yowling Up. Let's see, Yowling Up West Oz map. Yeah, it's pretty much southwest Australia. It's how far from Perth is it? It looks like it's probably a couple hours. So it's a couple hours southwest of Perth. So, oh really? Mark says that's where Taj Burrow's from. That's sick. He's from Yowling Up in particular, or he's from Perth? Or do they kind of include Yowling Up in Perth? How far are those from each other? Let's see. Oh, here's a little thing. Ultimate guide. Because you probably have to fly into Perth. And then I would share my screen, but I'm scared to hit this button right here. Oh, cool. He said he thinks Taj is from Yowling Up. Cool. Well, I mean, I guess the waves are actually pretty good. And like it's kind of a pretty hot destination for like surfing. Like surfing is one of the main draws. The water is extremely blue, like a tropical blue. Um, in the movie, it does a great job of showing like how beautiful the ocean is. It's like Gold Coast Surfers Paradise blue, but even like more blue. Um, oh yeah, and it says here it's one of the most famous surfing spots in Western Australia. 75 breaks along a 130-kilometer stretch of coast. Oh, sick. Oh yeah, and Margaret River is nearby, so yeah, that general area is like the main West Oz area. And then besides that, it's just bum F. um, like Mark, isn't that right? Like once you go north of Perth, there's just like hours of nothingness kind of in between maybe some things, but um West Oz in particular is very remote and like most people are on the East Coast in general, besides Perth and some of the surrounding areas on the West Coast. Mark says surf looks amazing over there, but seems pretty sharky. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's definitely lots of sharks, I think, and even in this movie, it's kind of crazy. They just brought Nick Cage out of the waters with the sharks, and he lived, I guess. That was good. Um, seemed like there's caves. The roads are long, hilly, and winding. It's probably extremely beautiful. So when I was out there, I would have loved to go. It's just kind of like being in Oh, so Mark's saying, yeah, but if you get up north in Western Oz, there's a couple of epic waves in the desert. So in desert surf, it's pretty sick. So I'm imagining the endless summer scene, even though that was in Africa, I think, when they're walking across the dunes. But um, but yeah, guys. In conclusion, I would say the movie's worth a watch for sure. If you're a surfer, or if you want to watch a movie that is kind of like watching Tyler Durden, or sorry, the narrator in Fight Club, become Tyler Durden or experience the Tyler Durden-ness. Um, it's American Psycho meets Fight Club, aka you don't know if what's really happening is happening, and then the surfer in this case, which that's his name, he doesn't even have a name. It's just the surfer. You don't know if his world is real or not, and then you also don't know if he is a crazy person, like in Fight Club, Edward Norton. At the very end, you realize, oh, he's schizo and he's talking to Tyler Durden, who's himself. It's a very similar um, setup where you're questioning what's real, what's not real, but the movie keeps it super ambiguous. So you never truly know until you get a couple hints. And then on second rewatch, it would be a lot easier to digest after realizing that it in fact is real. I mean, I think that's the director even kind of said that the point of the movie was sometimes that nostalgia is so intense and so like drawing that it's all that there is, and you will just fight through anything just to get back what you thought you needed were so great, even when you don't belong there and you don't live there, don't surf there. So, all right, guys, the voice is completely out. We out of here. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Mark, thanks for chatting the whole time. I hope you have a great dinner if you haven't eaten it yet. We unfortunately didn't get to have old Migsy in here, but maybe next time. Mark, I hope that was entertaining enough and hopefully got you kind of stoked. We do have more Serp reviews coming up. I have the Groove on my next list, and I'm still working on the Sweet Potato review, which one day will come out. But I'm piling through the footage right now, and there's lots of good clips. I'm stoked on that. So I would say go watch it, guys. It's a cool movie. Bear with me for a second as I leave the screen, but I'm gonna figure out how to end the screen without ruining it. So till next time, we out of here, y'all. Peace. If you stuck around, I figured out how to stop YouTube from destroying my stream before it ended. So luckily that happened, and now I can hit end and the video will stay published. So just we're getting like a post finale here. So Mark says, mate, gotta try one. We'll discuss on the next. Oh, you gotta try one, Mark? Well, Mark, let me know real quick. We can hang out for one more second. One more second. How was it? We got an inside scoop on the put my favorite guy on the back of the screen. Oh, Mark says it wasn't him, it was his friend. But that's still sweet, mate. Did he say he liked it? I know Tommy Surfs rode it, but he rode kind of one that might have been a little too big for what he wanted. So he did like it, but he would have preferred a slightly smaller one. Um, when I tried, I think I'm gonna try the 511, which is kind of my perfect shortboard dims. Which we look at real quick, because YouTube is letting me do this again. Yeah, so he rode the 6.2. So Mark says his friend usually rides a Machado Cotto, and he got to try a 6.2, which is pretty sick because that thing's like supersized. He has 6.2 is 40 liters, which I could definitely ride that. But I'm pretty stoked on probably the 511 at 35.6 liters. Like that could be pretty. That's gonna bring me back to my like Simon Anderson, JS Bruce Irons model days. Um, Even the 6.0 is kind of pretty much my album Twinsman dims. So for being a performance shortboard, it's pretty it is a really volumed out. Like he could have made this way thinner. But I like how it's more volume because you guys know I'm weird like that. Mark said, but for his friend, it was a bit too much volume for him and said it was hard to turn. Interesting. Did he ride it as a quad? Because Tommy Surfs, I think, might have rode it as a quad. Let's see. Let's see, Tommy Surfs. Here it is. And then my boy's in this Carlos. Carlos in where is he? Oh look, here's me. Oh yeah, look, Carlo. Yeah, Carlo's awesome. He's like kind of my a plug, and I appreciate you, Carlo. Thank you if you're watching this. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate y'all. Um, Look, I got likes. Look, I'm gonna like. I like my comment. Sure, I'm liking my own comment. Yeah, and I think Tommy was saying at the end here when he talks to Carlo. Oh look, we can see what fins he was riding. Looks like a quad. Oh, can't tell. Yep, quad. Um, yeah. So all the boys are riding quads. I would for sure be like, give me the three fin. Um, Mark said Mike Raven didn't love it as a quad, but I think Wooly TV did like it as a quad. Yeah, I think so too. I can't remember what Noel Salas did. Let's see what some comments say. Your Tommy Surfs. Oh no, see Jay Jimin said, perhaps the fins? Tommy Surf says, ooh, perhaps. Oh, but he also says size for sure. So Tommy Surfs did say that he thought it was he wanted a slightly smaller version. Oh, I just watched The Stepfather. It's like one of the best movies ever. So another great movie right here is Stepfather. It's actually a remake. I've seen this movie like 5 times. And what's funny is the main villain is also from Nip Tuck. So Nip Tuck knocked out of the park. The two main characters in Nip Tuck are this guy, the bad guy, and Stepfather, and Sully. So Nip Tuck, I've been having a Nip Tuck week. Um, so let's watch for a sec. You know, what's funny is Tommy Surfs like shreds all the time, but like he's kind of hard on himself, you know. So like he's shredding in this. You're like that boy's not too. You're shredding it, but I can see how he wants to pivot it more, but the quad wants to doesn't want to pivot anymore. It wants to be more like a Rob Machado, almost like a twin fin. Let's see. And I think he said this day was kind of fat, PHAT, or thick with two C's. And you see it kind of is like, it's still a pretty good wave, but it is a little soft. He would almost do better with, you know, the two fish, best board ever, or the boss up. So Mark says he would definitely run it as a thruster. Tommy Surf's video on the boss up helped him pull the trigger. He was ripping on it. Tommy Surfs, if you're watching, you're helping Firewire make deals. So there you go. And hopefully me and Tommy are going to surf here somewhat soon. We've talked a little bit, and we don't live terribly far from each other, so we seem to make it happen. He's like a true weekend warrior. Where I'm kind of like a most days, but in the weekends I do surf, but I try not to go as hardcore because them crowds. Mark says this left would be great on the two fish. I agree. It would be awesome on the two fish. I guess I could show you guys a sick wave I had on the two fish. You guys might not have seen it. But it's a really good video. And I was gonna here it is. So this is on the two fish, and watch this bottom turn and then top turn. And it's pretty crazy because like this is a twin fin. And I remember doing this bottom turn to top turn, and like it almost slid out, but then it didn't, and then it let me just wrap it around, and that turn felt really, really good. And then today I had like tons of turns like this, and the two fish was today was one of those days where the waves were actually pretty top to bottom, and the two fish was hitting its speed limit. Like I was going so fast that it was somewhat hard to control. And I caught myself trying to do roundhouses, like starting at the top of the wave, coming down. And the two fish is sick because you can roundhouse, come down, re-entry. And when you re-entry, the fins kind of slide out, but you keep your speed. So you kind of like roundhouse, re-entry, and then you're back down the line. And you make like there was one or two sections today where I was like, maybe I'll make this, maybe I won't. And then I made it. And it was the two fish make sections. It's still the fastest board I've ever ridden. And mine being a little oversized, I do like it, but when it gets critical, it can get a little just little out of control, but you just gotta tame it, is what it is. So Mark says, was that with the endorphins? Yes. Yeah, this is the endorphins. The endorphins are pretty much glued onto the board right now. I can't remember if I tried the Twinsman. Oh, I think I did. I think I did try the Twinsman fins, the NVS album NVS Twin Fin Apex. And yeah, I think the endorphins are just perfect because they have like the new Rob fins kind of do what the endorphins do, and they have a little bit of carbon fiber. And what it does and like makes it stiff enough, then gives you the release when you want it. That is the bee's knees. Bee's knees. Yeah, this was a sick. This day wasn't like as good as today, but it was still like a pleasant surprise of a day. And I really that turn felt amazing, and I was super stoked that the camera got it. So shout out Surfline. Mark says that two fish was lightning fast in review. One came up here in Marketplace, but after getting the boss up, the wallet has to stay closed for a while. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Yeah, I remember you were talking a little bit about the if you're gonna pull the trigger or not, and in the end, I think that the boss up's pretty sick, and it's more of a proper mid length where I noticed like on the two fish, it is good to oversize, but you oversize it more for like weak weak, crappy waves like Tommy was just surfing, you oversize the boss up for like when the waves are a little bigger, and if it is soft or not soft. But the two fish, when the waves get bigger and it is soft, it is sick, but it does like a littler wave, because it is so fast, and it's is rather thick and wide at the tail that it wants to be a little more. It doesn't want to be surfed mega aggressively, where the boss up is way thinner. I mean, the boss up might even be like volume wise. I bet the boss up is I wouldn't mind having the volcanic. Did you get the volcanic or the regular, Mark? Yeah, see the boss up. Yeah, the um the 6.6 is only like 1 liter more than my 5.11 two fish, 1.5 liters. But see the tail? That's gonna actually make it surf probably more nimble than the two fish. More, um, it'll just dig a little more, and because it's not smushed, since it's drawn out, um, probably is even like a little easier to surf. This is actually on my list too, but I'll probably go groove next, even though I almost had the chance to surf the boss up, but I think they only had the 7.0, and I really wanted the 6.6 or the 6.8. So yeah. So Mark did get the volcanic, and he he doesn't really use it as a mid length. It's his step up. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So Mark uses the boss up as his step up. Oh, and look, the KS fins. Yeah, the KS endorphins. Yeah, the 5 fin. That setup's pretty sick. I wouldn't mind having the thrusters up in that. Um, and Mark got the volcanic, which is this is might be my favorite tech. Is the idyllics with volcanic, because there's a stringer, but it's only foam, and there's no wood in the board, which I think makes the board super light and does something where it's like it's hard to explain, but something about the no wood in there. It's great. I mean, think about a surfboard. Most surfboards have wood somewhere. These don't have any wood, no wood in there at all. So something about having no wood. I don't know what's different, but it seems like it's really lighter, and it has just an overall feel when you're riding it that's maybe a teeny bit less bouncy, and maybe that's it. Maybe the lack of wood helps it not have that um epoxy problem sometimes when it gets bigger. So Mark says the boss up will hook around fast. You have to get the foot in the right place on the tail. I've heard that too. Those fins look pretty far back. Mark says he thinks the 6.6 would be perfect for me, but if you surf normal beaches, you'll probably get more use out of the groove. True. True. Well, it's funny, for a lot of my main breaks I like to surf. It is kind of like a softer wave, almost like the wave Tommy surfs was just surfing. So boards like the Machado Cotto and the Two Fish kind of work better than boards like this or even the mashup, where it needs a more top to bottom. But like today, this board would have been sick because today was more top to bottom. So, um, all right, guys. Well, Mark, that's it. My voice is totally shot. It's late. It's late for you, boy. But thank you for chiming in. I'm glad we went to overtime there. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in to another Hero's Journey live stream. Please go check out the Surfer, support movies, support Nick Cage, support surfing. Till next time, we out of here. Peace.